Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the last notes of the year. I know you're really excited about that. This is a pretty cool chapter. I wish that we were in class so we could talk more, in person about this. And we had some fun activities with like cookies, but coronavirus. But anyway, so we're going to end the school year by talking about minerals and mining, and they are really important, which we'll find out as we go along. So if you haven't already, make sure you have your notes taken out. We've got numbers 27 and 28. So there's a common saying that if you can't grow something, it needs to be mined. So a lot of the things that we see all around our houses, just all of our modern things need to be made from mineral resources. So for example, building materials, walls are typically made with drywall, which is made from gypsum. Actually, I have a piece of gypsum right here. I'm right next to my rock collection. So this is a piece of gypsum here. I actually found this in Utah. So really pretty mineral, but this is used to make drywall. And so we can see a lot of other minerals and things like that that are used to make all sorts of things. We need certain minerals to make computers, to make electronics, to make circuits, circuit boards, wiring, all sorts of stuff. Even fertilizers use minerals as well. So our modern world is really controlled by minerals. They are super important. However, mining is not super easy, I guess. The only way that we can obtain minerals is by mining. So basically what they do is that they have rocks, right? And they got to dig the minerals out of those rocks. So one really big issue with mining is that most minerals are widely spread, but in low concentration. So it's really hard to find, for example, like a giant rock just made of like pure gold. Typically we'll find small little veins of gold throughout rock. So it takes a lot of work to find and extract them. If you have never been, and I'm sure it's closed right now, but when things kind of open back up, if you haven't been to the El Dorado mines, it is an awesome tour that you can go on. It's in Nelson, Nevada. It's like a half hour from Henderson, but they would mine gold and silver there, and you can still see some of the gold and silver in the rocks. So if you have time over the summer and you have some money to spend and we're not in COVID-19 lockdown anymore, I would totally suggest going there so you can see hands-on what mines actually look like. And we can see an image here of what's going on. So here are a couple of things that we mine for to use in our home. So for example, radios. I guess we don't really use radios that look like this anymore, but we use electronics, so a lot of aluminum, copper, gold, iron, petroleum products, all of those are needed and all of those need to be mined. A toaster, if you had toast this morning, all of that needs to be mined, copper, iron, nickel. Our wiring that makes the lights turn on, that is copper, aluminum, microwaves, refrigerators, salt even, our clocks, our sinks, our stove, everything is made up of minerals that have to be mined. So our pretty much entire kitchen is made up of things that need to be mined. So we might not always notice it, but mining is the reason that we have all of our modern appliances. So on average, the average American, this is America, other countries will have differing amounts, but in the United States, we consume more than 39,500 pounds of new minerals. And I forgot to mention this is numbers 29, just 29. So number 29 is up here. So 39,500 pounds of new minerals and fuels every single year. That is a lot. And think each American is doing that, and there are millions of Americans. So that is a huge amount of minerals and fuels that need to be mined every single year. So at the current rate we're seeing, a child born in 2019, so just brand new. Speaking of which, my sister just had a baby in 2019, so this describes exactly how much that baby's going to use in their lifetime, assuming they live to be, you know, in their, I think, like late 80s is kind of what they're projecting here. They're going to use more than 3.1 million pounds of minerals and fuels during their lifetime. This is just one person in the United States. Now, multiply that by the millions of people we have, and then you also have to think of all the people in all the other countries around the world, and that is a lot of materials that need to be mined. So interestingly, this says 3.19 million pounds. This is the 2019 baby. I used to have an image up here from the 2015 baby, and it actually said 3.11 or 3.15 million pounds. So it has gone up a little bit in the past couple of years as we become more and more reliant on minerals. So kind of interesting. All of this stuff is what you're going to need. And that, you know, we see salt for our food, gas for our cars, cement for our buildings, iron, zinc, aluminum, things like that for our electronics and things like that. Okay, so we've got numbers 30 and 31. So most of what we mine is for coal, oil, and natural gas. So of course that makes sense because we use electricity. So about more than half of what we mine for is used just to power our homes and businesses. So this is a problem though, because I'm sure as you can guess, coal, oil, natural gas, they are non-renewable resources. So once we run out, they are gone. And that is a bit of a concern as the demands for energy increase. So we got to start, this is kind of one of the reasons, not only because it's bad for the environment, but one of the reasons we're really looking into green energy, alternate sources, because we don't want to run out of coal and oil. That would be really bad. So mining supplies that should say is, not us, is raw materials for countless products we use daily. As we saw, this computer that I'm using is made up of all sorts of minerals, like a lot of minerals. Okay, so in 2015, so this is all 2015 numbers. I'm sure it is actually higher 5 years later. The raw materials from mining contributed to $78 billion in the US economy. So mining added a huge amount of money to the US economy. And then that was just like the minerals themselves. And then once the materials were used to make products, for example, like bikes, cars, laptops, watches, things like that, these materials make up about $630 billion in just the United States economy. So mining is a huge money opportunity because they are really necessary and they are huge in making a lot of money for the economy. Now, to give you an idea, 10% of the money in Nevada comes from mining. So 10% of our money comes from mining. We mostly mine gold and silver here. We are called the Silver State, so that would make sense. So of course, a lot of it's like tourism and things like that, but 10% of the economy in Nevada comes from mining. So mining is great, but it has really severe environmental impacts, and we'll talk a little bit about that in just a second. So one issue, this is number 32, an issue is that typically minerals only make up a small portion of the rock. So if you go, for example, for fun, you go to the El Dorado mines in Nelson, Nevada, you would see that there are just small little bands of gold and silver that you can still see in the mine, surrounded by tons and tons of rock. So you have to remove all of this material to get what you want. So for example, here I have, this rock is called garnet schist. Yes, you heard that right. It is called schist. But I'm sure you guys have heard of garnets before. I'm going to try to show. So these red minerals right here, where'd the other one go? There's one there. That's a big one. Couple on this side, there's one here. So you probably have heard of garnet. If not, it is a very common mineral. It is used, well, first of all, it is um, the birthstone for January. So if you're born in January, that's your birthstone. They're red, really pretty minerals. So not only are they used in jewelry, a lot of jewelry have garnets in it, but they are also used in industry. They're really good abrasives. So like using sandpaper, instead of using sand, they can use crushed up garnets. They can cut through steel if you mix it with water, because like I said, they're really good abrasives. And they are actually favored by cabinet makers. So if you want to go into cabinetry, they're really good at finishing wood. But as you can see in my rock here, there's only a couple of garnets in here, right? So if miners want to obtain these garnets, which are very useful as we see, they will have to remove all of this other rock with it. And so that creates a huge effect um, on the land around it. They just want to get these little things in there, but they have to dig out all of this other material to get to it. So it can really affect the environment because it's destroying habitats, and it can also disturb the people who live nearby. And we'll get more into that in just a second. Not only can it disturb the land, it can also use dangerous chemicals to react with the rock to make it easier. So instead of just like hitting this with a hammer all day, if you can use a chemical reaction instead, that kind of softens the rock a little bit. However, a lot of the times those are very dangerous compounds that they use, like mercury, arsenic, things like that. If you guys remember watching that La Rinconada video, they used mercury to extract the minerals, and that got into their water, and it's just very unsafe because you don't want to be drinking mercury. There are definitely a lot of long-term effects from mining, but unfortunately it's kind of a necessary evil, it seems like, because we need these minerals for our lives to have the common comforts that we're used to. So here we have some images of mines. Here is a huge mine. We could see this is what we call a pit mine. So it's just literally a giant pit. It looks like there's a huge landslide that happened here. But to give you kind of an idea of how big this mine is, here are the cars. This looks like a huge like semi truck right there, but it looks teeny tiny compared to this mine. And I'm pretty sure this is in China. Another cool place to go if you would like is called Three Kids Mine. It's actually really close to the school if you look it up. It's just a couple miles up Lake Mead Parkway, and you can see a pit mine for yourself. It's not quite this big, but it's pretty big, and it's really cool. I definitely nerded out when I went there. So Three Kids Mine in Henderson is another pit mine that you can go see. Just, you know, be careful. So this definitely will affect the environment, right? I mean, we had to cut down a bunch of trees. We moved a bunch of animals' habitats, things like that. Here's also another thing we were talking about in the last slide with all this gunk from the mines going into rivers. So you definitely wouldn't want to drink this water. It is literally orange, which is probably not a good sign. So there's definitely some environmental impacts from it. Now here's just kind of an interesting image to make a cell phone. Here are not all of them, but just a few of the minerals we need. And not only do these minerals need to be mined in the United States, but as we can see over here, they literally come from all over the world. So your cell phone or your laptop or whatever, it is a really quite the global effort. Minerals from all over the world need to be mined to make a single cell phone. So mining, like I said, it's really important. So number 33 is right here. As we saw in those previous images, the environmental impacts of mining is quite insane. The government in the United States and other nations that are developed Unfortunately, not a lot of developing countries follow this, but developed countries like the United States, Canada, a lot of countries in Europe require that mining companies restore their sites after mining is complete. So here is before. So here was an open pit mine. It wasn't huge, but it definitely, caused some environmental damage. And then afterwards, this is what we call mine reclamation. After mining, you can see that they covered it back over and now is allowing for trees and plants to grow back. So this is really helpful. They do this with most mines in the United States. So mine reclamation. So before, after. However, a lot of other nations do not require this because of money issues, or going back to our discussion about ethics. They don't really care so much to save the environment because they have to choose between feeding their family or saving the environment, things like that. But here in the United States and other more developed nations really try to restore the beauty of the land before it was mined. So once they extracted everything they need, they cover it back up. So we have number 34. So as we know, minerals are non-renewable. Once they're gone, they're gone. They will eventually run out. It's just a matter of the issue. They're definitely going to run out at some point. So what we need to do is find a way to conserve the supply, so we don't just blast through all of it and then in 20 years we run out and then suddenly we can't have our electronics or anything anymore. One of the biggest ones that people are kind of freaking out about is indium. Indium is made to create, or is used to create our LCD screens. So that's computer screens, TV screens, phone screens, everything that has a screen that is electronic. Game Boys, X or Nintendo Switches, whatever, all of those use indium to create their screens. Really great at showing colors and things like that. However, we only have enough indium to last us 30 more years. What? That's crazy. Only 30 more years. So we got to figure out either a different way to create screens, or we just need to be better at recycling it. Another one is platinum that's used in our fuel cells in cars. So if we run out of platinum, not only would the jewelry industry be affected, but also we wouldn't be able to drive cars. So we definitely need to recycle and be mindful of the minerals and how much we have left. So here's kind of a terrifying image. So if you're born in 2010, I think you guys were all, yeah, you were all born before that. But kind of to give you an idea of how much minerals are left. So oil at the current usage that we are using it will run out. They're estimating around 2045. That is not far away at all. That's like in 25 years. Coal's a little bit longer. It might stretch out to 2100, but it's, And remember, this is at our current usage around the world. Gasoline will run out, in the next several decades as well. Antimony makes batteries. They said 2020 is going to run out. Obviously, we haven't run out of it yet, but in the next couple of years, we're really going to be having some issues with that. The one that is kind of crazy is gold. Gold is used in circuits, jewelry. It's used in a lot of things. And that's probably going to run out in about 10 years at our current use. So it's kind of freaky to think about, that we are just going through these minerals so fast, and there's literally nothing we can do about it except to slow down our usage or find alternatives. So to save the minerals, and this is 35 and then 36, you can answer by yourself. To save the minerals, companies and countries are trying to find new mineral reserves so that they can maybe have more minerals. Finding more effective ways to extract the minerals. So instead of just like getting all this garbage into the water, and destroying habitats and stuff. They're trying to figure out ways to extract the minerals better. Changing the dependency on technology. We are so dependent on technology. I am very guilty of that. So changing how we think about technology, and maybe not putting out a new phone every year and everyone's updating, maybe giving more time and not having this huge demand for upgrading to the latest and greatest thing. And that also relates to changing consumption patterns. So like I said before, you don't just keep a phone for a year, get a new one, because that's just totally wasting all those minerals there. And of course, recycling, that's a big one. So all of these things, companies are trying, companies are working on to save those minerals. Now, one thing I'm gonna end with here is that you gotta, even though minerals are very useful, and here in the United States, we have very good laws about mining, a lot of the minerals come from war-torn countries. So for example, the Dominican Republic of the Congo in Africa has horrible, horrible working conditions for the people that work in their diamond mines. And so people are literally being put into slavery to get these mines. So that's kind of another thing to think about, is not just how it's affecting the environment, but also how it is affecting people that live in that area. Are they being literally enslaved so that the government can make money off of these minerals? So if you're interested more in that, feel free to look up blood diamonds, or just really just any video dealing with mining, especially in the Dominican, or the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the DRC. It's pretty sad what's going on there. So anyway, to end, that's kind of a sad note to end on, talking about humans being slaves and being put in horrible conditions. But, this is an issue that, future voters of America, you're going to be dealing with. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the last section of notes. The next thing we're going to be learning about in this class is Mars. Woo! So that's pretty exciting. So anywho, hope you have a fabulous day.